I've always considered myself a loyal person. I wasn't the type to flirt around or double text anyone. I believed in honest communication and clear boundaries. Or at least, I thought I did. This story isn't about me defending what I did. I'll be clear. I made a mistake, one that I owned up to, but it wasn't a dramatic soap opera type of cheating. No screaming matches, no wild betrayal. It was a text, one message that snowballed into something much bigger than I anticipated. And if I could go back, I would have handled things very differently. Let me paint the picture. I was in a 2-year relationship with someone I genuinely liked. Let's call him Matt. He was stable, kind, worked hard, and treated me with respect. We weren't toxic. We didn't fight often. We had regular date nights, shared hobbies, and got along well with each other's friends. But around the 2nd year, I started feeling distracted. Not because Matt changed, but because I didn't really know what I wanted anymore. I wouldn't even call it unhappiness. It was more like a quiet boredom, a kind of emotional drift. I kept showing up in the relationship, but I wasn't really present. I didn't tell Matt because it felt like such a small, selfish complaint, like I was being ungrateful for something that looked fine from the outside. So I kept it to myself. That was the first mistake. One night, I got a message from someone I used to talk to in college. Let's call him Jake. We weren't exes, not even close. Just flirty acquaintances who never had perfect timing. He sent something harmless like, "Hey, just saw your post, have you been?" I responded, short, polite, that's it. But then a few days later, he messaged again, and I replied again, longer this time, with emojis, with interest. Here's what I told myself, it's just texting. I'm not meeting up with him. I don't even like him like that. This is harmless. I justified every interaction by what I wasn't doing, not what I was. I wasn't kissing anyone. I wasn't hiding my phone. I wasn't deleting messages. I told myself it didn't count, and that's where the biggest lie lived. Texting Jake became part of my routine, not constant, but frequent enough. A check-in here, a meme there, a compliment tossed in. It felt like harmless fun, a tiny ego boost, but without realizing it, I started comparing him to Matt. Jake was more playful, more curious about me, more expressive. Matt felt stable, but suddenly, stable felt dull. That shift wasn't Jake's fault, it was about me, and the resentment I hadn't voiced. Matt wasn't the snooping type, but one day, I left my phone on the couch, and he picked it up to check the time. The screen lit up with a new message from Jake that said, "You always knew how to drive me crazy, huh?" Matt didn't say anything at first. He just put the phone down and walked into the kitchen. But I could feel it, everything shifted. That night, Matt sat me down and asked, "Is there something going on I should know about?" I froze. I didn't lie. I told him it wasn't physical. I explained it started out harmless, that I didn't intend for it to become anything. He asked, "Why didn't you talk to me instead?" And I didn't have a good answer, because I should have. Matt didn't yell. He didn't accuse me. He just said, "I can't be with someone who gives that part of herself to someone else." And I respected it. We broke up within the week. No drama. I moved out, and suddenly, I had all the time in the world to think about what had happened. Jake messaged again, asking if I was okay. I didn't reply. It wasn't about him anymore. It never really was. He was just a mirror that showed me what I was missing and what I wasn't willing to work on. I had to face the reality that I used someone as a distraction instead of fixing what was broken or having the courage to walk away. Cheating doesn't always look like cheating. It can be a slow slide. Jake started texting late at night, sometimes flirty. Once or twice, he asked if I ever thought about what if. I didn't answer directly, but I also didn't shut it down. Instead, I let the messages linger, and I'd reread them, smile at them, feel seen. It wasn't physical, but it was emotional, and I knew it. A little bit of attention here, a flirtation there, and suddenly, you're not the person you thought you were. What I did wasn't a betrayal in the traditional sense, but emotionally, I stepped out, and it cost me someone who truly cared about me. I spent the next few months just being alone, not dating, not texting, just figuring out why I let myself get that far out of alignment with my values. I talked to a therapist, started journaling again, and had to come to terms with the fact that not meaning to hurt someone doesn't erase the impact when you do. Looking back, I don't think I was a terrible person, but I was careless. I didn't ask myself why I felt disconnected. I didn't have the uncomfortable conversations. I waited for attention to come from outside instead of addressing what was missing inside. If I'd been honest with Matt and with myself, we might have fixed it or ended it cleanly. Either would have been better than what I did. If you've ever been in a similar situation, here's what I've learned. Micro cheating still counts. It didn't mean anything isn't a get out of jail free card. Emotional connections can be just as hurtful as physical ones. If you're reaching outside your relationship for validation, something needs to change and fast. I regret what I did, but I'm grateful for the clarity it brought, because now I know how to show up in a relationship fully, honestly, and with integrity. And next time, I'll choose the uncomfortable conversation over the easy escape. Every time. After the confession, our home felt quiet in a different way. It wasn't the silence of peace anymore. It was the silence of uncertainty. We didn't argue. We didn't lash out. But the way we moved around each other said everything: cautious, careful, and emotionally distant. He slept on the couch for the first few nights. I didn't ask him to. He just did. I cried the first night, not from heartbreak, but from how strange it felt not hearing his breathing next to me. A week later, we sat down to talk. Really talk. Not out of rage. Not to blame, but to understand. I told him everything. I answered his questions honestly, even the painful ones. I didn't sugarcoat it, but I didn't dramatize it either. I told the truth because I owed him that much. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just listened. Then he said something I'll never forget. I don't hate you, but I don't know if I can trust you again. And I don't know if I want to try. We gave ourselves a few days. No pressure, no expectations. Then we both came to the same decision. We needed space. It wasn't a breakup. Not yet. But it was time apart, time to think. I moved in with a friend for a month. I kept paying half the rent. He took care of the apartment. We texted sometimes, mostly about bills or practical stuff, but not much else. Alone in a different apartment, I realized how loud guilt can be when nothing else is going on. I replayed moments. The way I justified little things. The night it happened. The look on his face when I told him. I started journaling, not to excuse myself, but to understand myself. Why did I do this? What was I running from? What I discovered surprised me. I didn't cheat because I didn't love him. I cheated because I didn't value myself. I thought I needed external validation, attention, something to prove I was still desirable. But it didn't make me feel loved. It made me feel small. Meanwhile, he was doing his own processing. He didn't go to therapy, but he talked to friends, his brother, maybe even someone at work. He unfollowed me on Instagram. It stung, but I understood. We met for coffee after 5 weeks apart. He looked tired, but clear-eyed. He said he forgave me, not to get back together, but because carrying the anger was starting to eat at him, and because forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, it meant accepting that the past already happened and choosing not to live in it anymore. We didn't reconcile, not in a romantic way, but we had closure, real closure, the kind that isn't dramatic or explosive, just calm. I used to think the worst part of cheating was losing his trust, but honestly, losing my trust in myself was harder. Could I trust myself not to sabotage again? Could I be in a healthy relationship in the future and not ruin it? These questions stayed with me for months. I didn't date for a while, not because I didn't want to, but because I wasn't ready. I took time to build habits that reflected the person I wanted to be, not just when someone was watching, but when no one was. I reconnected with friends I'd distanced myself from. I said no to things I used to agree to just to avoid guilt. Regret isn't cinematic. It's not crying in the rain or grand gestures. It's sitting at a red light and remembering the look in someone's eyes. It's hearing a song and feeling your stomach drop. It's knowing there's no fix, only learning. I stopped hiding the story eventually. Not everyone needs to know, of course. But I told a close friend, then another, then a new partner I started seeing a year later. Each time, it got a little easier. Not because I was proud, but because hiding it made it grow bigger in my mind, and I didn't want shame to run my life anymore. I know now that making a mistake doesn't define you, how you handle it does. That being honest isn't just about telling the truth, it's about facing it too. That self-respect doesn't grow from perfection, it grows from accountability. And that healing is quiet work, consistent work, but worth it. We're both living different lives now. He's with someone new. I am too. We don't talk, but if I saw him on the street, I'd smile, not because I don't care, but because I care enough to want peace for both of us, and because now, finally, I have peace within myself.